Hey everybody, this is Alex Fabrega coming at you again with another Teaching Tips Tuesday. Today I have with me the wonderful Robbin Clark. How you doing today, Robin?
I'm doing pretty good.
Would you like to tell the people at home about your title and credentials?
Oh my gosh, yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Robbin Clark. I'm excited to be with you. I am the Assistant Director and Principal at the Utah School for the Blind. I supervise all things expanded core curriculum statewide, and I get to be the super fun assistant principal in our high school and our college prep programs.
There's no way I could have had that with that much panache.
Oh, I know. But you just got to get really excited about the expanded core curriculum and then smile. And then there it is.
Alrighty. So what do you want to talk about today?
Today, I want to share with everybody a secret weapon that will make your lessons go so much better. And that is the shared learning objective. Now, I know a lot of you have heard about what a learning objective is. It's what will happen, what will they do in a lesson. Today, I really want to refine this down for you and talk about why you need this as part of every single one of your lessons, no matter what student you're teaching, whether they are typically developing or if they have complex additional disabilities. Stating the learning objective at the start of your lesson is definitely the skill you want to have. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today.
All right, so you kind of told us a little about it, that it's about sharing that learning objective before you start. Are there any more particularities about it?
Yeah. So when people hear this at first, they're kind of a little bit like, "What?" The shared learning objective is what are you going to do in this lesson? What do you want the student to walk away with? And it's kind of like think of this as a GPS system, right? When
Okay.
both you and the computer know where to go, then you can go on track. But if you don't know where to go, you don't know what information to put in and how can you get anywhere? I suddenly realized I gave a reference to something that nobody uses anymore, which is a GPS system. But the same thing with Google Maps. If
People
you
use them on their
put
phones. Yeah.
information in, everybody knows where it's at. And one of the things that I'm going to reference today and share with you is a really great, easy read article from a website called ascd.org. It's one of my favorite education websites, and they have a great article. So I'm going to share this with you now, and I'm going to read a tiny bit from it. So now, getting back to what I want you to take away from my little lesson from you. A learning objective at the start of your lesson makes a big difference for communicating your expectations. So I want you to walk away from this session knowing that I should give my learning objectives every time I have a lesson. So I just modeled for you what you can do. You start a lesson. Today, we're going to do this. Remember that when you share the learning objectives, it conveys to students the destination of the lesson, what to learn, how to deeply learn it, and how to exactly know what to demonstrate. So, this is found by research, which you can find in the article that I'm going to share. But the intention of the lesson is one of the most important things the students should learn. They should know why you're doing this lesson and what you expect them to get out of it. And yes, you can do this with students with multiple impairments. I honestly just taught a lesson to two students that have additional disabilities, significant. And it's the first thing I do when I go through my opening sequence. I tell them, today we are going to do part and whole, even if I just say it. Sometimes you can use this as an I can statement. You can maybe have a student read this to you. What's your I can statement for today? Well, I can track a line of Braille. Now the student knows this is what they expect me to do. Granted, I gave a very easy example.
Okay.
Um, but you can use this whether you're doing classroom work, direct service, and it really also works for students when you're on mobility lessons. What's the purpose of this? Something else I like to do is once I tell the learning objective, today, this is what we're going to do. I give the student a minute and I have them say, now you write me an I can statement. So if the purpose of my lesson today is to go out to the community and to go to Marshall's, that's my lesson for tonight, by the way. I'm taking students to Marshall's. Then, and I tell them, oh, so I also want you to be able to make a purchase so they know what my objective is. Then I have them say, okay, well, today I can locate the checkout counter. I can locate the price tag and read it. So I have them really target on what they can do during this lesson. So that's
Okay.
a big part of this. Something else I really want to share with you about why you really want to have this learning objective communicated. So even if you don't go all fancy, like I just explained with doing the I can statements, the bare minimum, and I'm going to read a tiny thing for you from this article. No matter what we decide students need to learn, not much will happen until students understand what they are supposed to learn during the lesson and set sights on learning it. Regardless of how important the content, how engaging the activity, how formative the assessment, or how differentiated the instruction, unless all students see, recognize, and understand the learning target from the very beginning of the lesson, one factor will remain constant. The teacher will always be the one providing the instruction, focusing on getting students to meet the instructional objectives. The students, on the other hand, will focus on doing what the teacher says rather than on learning. So it's so important that we give the clear map. And that could be as simple as touch toy, again, for students who have limited vocabulary, 2-word utterances, touch toy, put in. I want you to put in. And then obviously with students who have much more of a language capacity, you can bring that up higher. But when both of you know what the learning objective is, at the end of your lesson, you can ask the student, did we hit the learning objective? How do you know that we did it? Well done. So it's a great way of bookending it, but really starting out first. I promise you, teachers, it's your secret weapon to instruction. It totally is. It's one of my go-to number one strategies.
So when you first brought this up when we were talking, my first thought was, am I going to share my IEP written objectives like student will be able to in 4 or 5 trials? It seems like we're not doing that at all. We're breaking it down more functional, getting out of that teacher talk.
Oh, yeah, and I really love that you gave that example because, yeah, when you hear learning objective, I don't mean run to the IEP and find out a benchmark. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm working with you today. This is what I want you to get out of my lesson. So I gave you like kind of out of the box ideas. Like today, I'm taking students on a community lesson to Marshall's. What do I want them to do? At the start of every lesson, I tell a student, this is what we're doing. This is why. You might also think about this as the purpose. Um, just remember, good learning objectives have a verb, something that a student can do. So when you're writing a learning objective, whether you're writing it as an IEP or saying it, student will learn. How can you measure learning, right? So maybe students will learn what Marshall's store is by describing what it sells, sharing information about the website, but there should always be an observable and actionable verb to any learning objective that you do. Otherwise, how do you know that a student understood it? What did they do? So remember, your action verb is where you need to go. And if you're not sure where to find that, because that's usually the follow-up question is, well, where do I find these verbs? There, you could go to Bloom's taxonomy verbs. I like the Marzano-Kendall taxonomy, where it lists different verbs and it matches to what kind of action we want them to do. But you can do an easy Google for this. And I dare you to do something more than label and identify, right? Those are common verbs. They're good, but let's dig into the rigor. Let's evaluate. Let's analyze. Let's describe and compare and contrast. So, moral of the story, at the beginning of all of your lessons, regardless if you're with a preschooler or a teenager, a typically developing student, or a child who has significant, complex additional disabilities, state your learning objective at the start of your lesson. What is it that you want them to do during this lesson? Second, make sure that your verb is actionable. Put in, take out, locate, analyze. Give them a verb, something that you can measure. It's okay if they need to analyze with support, right? But we know what we're looking for. So state your learning objective, use an actionable verb, and get consistent with it. Small steps make big changes for students. So there
Yeah.
might be a student that will pick it up right away, and sometimes they won't, but keep doing it. Then, as you get more comfortable, ask the students, here's my objective. What's one thing you want to focus on in my lesson based on the objective? How about you write an I can statement because this is what I want you to learn. Now we've become partners in the learning experience. And we already know when we're partnering with students, we have their buy in and they care and they want to make it happen.
Absolutely. Well, I have one more question for you today,
Yeah.
Robin, and that is, what is your favorite part of your job?
My favorite part of my job, 3,000 things I could say, but the one thing that has grown the most on me is I have really loved the opportunity to grow and develop as a professional. I've taken on new things that were intimidating. I've learned a lot of new things. And the best part about my job, number one, will always be students. But the second part is how I'm learning to really meet their needs and how I'm growing as a professional. And it's awesome. So if you're still doing the same thing you were doing 5 years ago, baby, you need to upgrade. How can you take that to the next? How can you grow and learn to the next level? And I've really appreciated that with everything that I've gone through in the last couple of years.
That is such a huge part about being TPIO&M, is trying to adjust to all these new things you're learning. And I know you do a huge part to help keep the community as up to date as possible. And we greatly appreciate you for that,
I
Robin.
I try.
All right, and we want to thank everybody at home for watching another episode of Teaching Tips Tuesday. If you have any questions or comments or have a topic we want to cover, please put in the comments. We'll have a link to the article Robin was discussing in the description below. Please give that a read. We do love a good evidence-based Teaching Tips Tuesday, and we hope everybody at home has a great week.